Hey folks, thanks for coming back to my channel. Today, we're going to learn about the dangers of dating a gorgeous woman. I guess that means like when you don't last really long and it's over in like 5-10 seconds, or that just happens to me. Awkward. Okay, moving on. Let's get into it.
Hi folks, the Filipino P here. And if you come to the Philippines, one of the first things you're gonna notice that will astound and confuse you is all the ordinary looking guys walking around with beautiful women. The minute you step off the plane, you're likely to see men that wouldn't get a rating of 3 in your country, arm in arm with women who could easily appear on the cover of a men's magazine.
That's total BS. That's total BS, P, because if you didn't know, all Western women say they're 10s. On a scale of 1 to 10, they're all 10s. So by extension, all Western men have now adopted that. At least all my subscribers have adopted it, that we're all 10s. I don't agree with your rating scale. You're not gonna bring this back to reality, okay?
Or even in the center pages, if you know what I mean. Now your first thought is probably gonna be the one you've been programmed to have all your life, that there's only one possible reason why this is happening.
There's 3 possible reasons. 1, money. 2, they're really good looking, the guys. And 3, I don't remember. 3, green card. I know it's one of them, P. You won't convince me otherwise. It can't possibly be because they actually love the person. That's not how this works, okay? All right, as soon as you step outside of your country, nobody can love anybody. It's all about green card, money, or you're just hot and exotic to them.
And it ain't about love. Right off the bat, you assume it must be the case that the men are just buying these women. What else could possibly account for the mismatch in looks?
$1,000 at the slave market.
Well, that's because you're assuming there is a mismatch. But today I'm gonna turn your world upside down by showing you that we Filipinas often think we're the lucky ones. Yes, really. It all has to do with perception.
I knew it. It's for the green card. I knew it. God, I got it right. That's so good.
Perceptions of beauty, and what you see as a beautiful woman, we might see as common or plain. But even though you can have a gorgeous partner here, is there a downside to being with such an attractive woman? Well, stick around as I reveal the curse of the hot Filipina.
Like gangster intro.
You know the old saying that if you want to keep a woman, marry an ugly one? Well, that might make sense in some instances, but in the case of a relationship in the Philippines, it often just doesn't apply because there's a huge difference in what we consider beautiful. Now, I've mentioned this phenomenon before, but I can tell by a lot of the recent comments that some of you new guys just aren't getting it yet. And it's a really important thing to understand, so I'm gonna explain it in detail and show you how it can either work in your favor or totally bite you in the butt. The fact is, we don't see our looks the way you do, and so our SMV, or sexual market value, is totally different from what it would be in the West, and yours is completely upside down too. Here in the Philippines, you guys become exotic looking and your appearance is gonna get graded on a completely different curve from the one you're used to. You get extra points here, and in the eyes of Western men, some Filipinas get extra points that we're not used to too. I think you guys have trouble digesting.
I read some studies on this. Literally, that's why a lot of people like dating foreign men and women, because it's like you have different accents, different facial features that are exotic, different cultural backgrounds that they might like, that they find interesting. It's actually quite popular. Like if you're a foreigner living in another country, generally you have better opportunities than if you're just a normal dude from that country trying to date that country's women or vice versa.
Is that many of the Filipinos you think are insanely hot or actually the ugly ducklings in the eyes of the local guys.
I don't believe that. I think more often than not, guys are pretty similar in what they find attractive. Now, there's always exceptions, but I think they're pretty similar. So I don't know if I agree with you. You're gonna have to show some examples, Miss P.
I mentioned that fact during my last video, when I told you that Filipino men generally won't give me the time of day. I appreciate all you folks that commented positively about my looks, but it's really one of those eye of the beholder things.
Really? I think she's probably like a 7 or an 8.
So how can it be that two guys can look at the exact same woman and one of them sees a 10 and one of them sees a 2? Well, it's actually really simple. Local Filipinos are attracted to fair-skinned women who have a little meat on their bones. So for them, a thick woman isn't a deal breaker. Western men, on the other hand, tend to like tan-skinned, slender women, even the really skinny ones that are often rejected by the local guys.
Okay, but that's not totally accurate, because passport bros are generally black men, and generally black men like thick women. So based on what you described, they're gonna like to go for the thick, fair-skinned women, or just the thick woman, whatever. You know what I'm saying.
I get a lot of questions about how Filipino men regard foreigners who come here to find a mate. And you're always surprised when I tell you that most of them don't mind, because you're hunting for different Filipinas.
They're sitting there like, oh, you want those ones? You want those skinny, like stick skin skin? Thin stick? What the hell am I saying? Stick thin ones. You want those stick thin ones. Why is that a tongue twister for me? They're just like, yeah, just take them away. We want to build up a collection of nice, thick, fair-skinned Filipino women here. Okay, so just you get rid of those ones. You take them back to your country. You populate there. We don't want to see them.
They're hunting for bear, and you're out for beaver. So you're not really encroaching on each other's territory.
Whoa, we're hunting for beaver, are we? Well, as a Canadian, I know all about the beaver. Yes, I've seen it many times. I've even captured them. I found their nests, their dams. I've broken them and waited for them to come back in the night to fix them, and then trap them. And then I take that beaver back to my house, and I make sweet, sweet skinning love to them. Everybody knows what a beaver means in this case, right? Everybody knows what a beaver means. It's the down below region on a woman, in between her legs. And you know what's also funny about this? Is that a bear, basically it's a guy who's like bearded, hairy chest and stuff. It's like a thicker guy. They're called bears. Yeah. So what you just said is that the Westerners chase women and the Filipino men chase gay men who are hairy. Good job. Good job. You didn't know that, but I just explained it for you.
And everyone's happy, especially the beavers. Many of you guys have also
happy.
asked me why your Filipino girlfriends or even wives just can't see how beautiful they are, even when you tell them over and over. Well, that's because, once again, you're looking at things from your own perspective.
Oh, yes. I've just recently experienced it, actually, where I was talking to a beautiful Filipino woman online, and when I told her that I thought her voice was beautiful, I really liked the sound of her voice, she thought her voice sounded terrible. She doesn't like her voice. If you're watching this, she called you out. And I'm calling you out too.
Which is completely natural, but you gotta understand the way we see it. Many of us grew up in a world where people looked down on us for our appearance and called us housekeepers or katulong, or they said we were from the mountains, galing sa bundok, just because we were too skinny or our skin was too dark. We knew we were never gonna win any beauty pageants, and we'd probably be the last ones asked to the prom, because when it comes to looks, everyone knows who's on the bottom of the barrel in their own culture, and little dark Filipinas are no different.
You know what's weird is I work with a lot of guys from like India and Pakistan, and they have the same thing there, where they talk about colorism within their own country. So if you're dark-skinned Indian or Pakistani, you are treated worse than a fairer-skinned or a light-skinned Indian or Pakistani. So we talk about racism a lot in North America, just about, you know, black and white and Hispanic, right, between them as an example. But it's like you go to these other countries where it's all brown people or something, and they have like, well, you're darker than me, so you're worse. And that's kind of like a consistent thing in a lot of these countries, and it's freaking ridiculous. It's like we're all human beings, guys. We're all human beings. We all bleed red. Let's all settle down and get along.
And you know, after a few decades of hearing the same thing, you start to believe it. And when you look in the mirror, that's what you see. It's only natural to judge your own looks by the society you live in. Doesn't everyone do that? So it shouldn't be surprising when along comes the foreigner telling us we're gorgeous and we think you're either blind or just feeding us a load of pig manure. Of course we don't believe you at first, and sometimes we never do believe you, because in our world, we're the rejects. So why is it so hard to...
Isn't that kind of sad that people would feel that way? But I guess it's like men, certain men anyways, and certain women here in North America, they feel the same way if they don't have the typical beauty standards that is expected here.
To believe that the opposite is true too. You might think you're not much to look at, but we don't see it the same way. To us, you're the exotic, attractive ones, even if you have some extra mileage on you. I recently did a video.
We're all 10s here. I don't know what you're talking about. We're all 10s, okay?
Where I asked Filipinas what kind of body they like on a man. And you guys were shocked to find out that many of us prefer the dad bod with a little padding around the middle. In fact, I think about 80% of the women I asked said they thought love handles were cute.
You need something to grab onto. Come on. So you hold on.
Compare that to what a group of modern Western women would say about what kind of man they're attracted to. And I think it's pretty clear that our standards are just different than yours. Also, generally speaking, women aren't as fixated on looks to begin with. Of course we want a good-looking guy, which we think most of you are, but we're not as stimulated by the visuals. That's just the way it is.
I think in general that's the way it is everywhere. Good looks only go so far, and generally if you're basing any sort of relationship off of looks, you're gonna have it's for a short-term fling. It's not for something long-term. Now you might find somebody who's really good looking, has a great personality and gets along with you, and that's great, but that's not what's going to keep you in the relationship. So I think that goes for everybody. And I would just make an exception if you're like young, like you're a teenager or in your 20s, be looking for looks, but that's just because you want hookups and stuff.
And when you consider the fact that age isn't a big negative factor here, it seems like Filipinas and foreigners are a perfect match. I know it's gonna take a...
Like a 65-year-old guy or a 55-year-old guy with like a 25-year-old Filipina. Maybe that like flies in Philippines or certain other countries, but as soon as you would come back to the United States or Canada or something like that, or wherever you're from, like some westernized country, and if you were like, I don't know, 55, 65 with a really young woman, you're gonna get judged so hard. So yeah, you better stay in the country where you found them.
A while to sink in. And you're probably wondering what the catch is. But that's exactly how we feel when one of you foreigners chooses us and tells us how gorgeous we are. We don't believe you. We think we must be the luckiest woman on earth to have somehow caught the eye of an attractive, worldly man.
Well, you are, because you be dating me.
And as you might have noticed, we're often terrified that you're gonna wake up one day and realize that you could have a much hotter woman than us.
Well, there's something you need to consider is that the much harder woman, yeah, you might, like as a guy, we might be super physically attracted to the much harder woman, but we don't have the connection that we would with you, unless, of course, our connection was shit because we had like a bad relationship or something, then that would be different. But assuming you have a good relationship, It's just not going to compare. Now, what you should be dangerous about is if the hot woman is then like trying to form a connection with your man or your woman, etc., because then she's going to try to rival you in connection and then looks. So that's dangerous. And that's why I always say men and women cannot have friends that are single of the opposite gender, or even like maybe like dating. You should only have friends who are like other married couples. Because if I'm a guy and I have a friend that's a girl who's single, that's like no. That's a big no. And then as well, the same thing with a woman having friends with a guy who's single. Like that's even worse actually, because men are generally only friends with women because they want to date them. Like it is so extremely rare that a man is friends with a woman and it's not just waiting to be like, I'm going to date this woman. Like, oh my God. No.
Which can explain the ridiculous amount of mate guarding that goes on here, and how a gorgeous young Filipina can throw a fit when her much older, out of shape Western boyfriend even looks at another woman, even just on TV or in YouTube videos. I've talked to guys who literally have to watch my videos in private or when their girlfriend's not around to avoid a nuclear explosion. I can only imagine what would happen if they were caught with porn.
Just sitting there like, I wasn't doing anything. I was just watching the Filipina piece. She was just telling me about the Philippines, where you're from. I was just trying to learn. I swear I wasn't doing anything. I don't know why my pants are off.
Now you might think that's just the actions of a desperately poor woman that's afraid to lose a meal ticket. But you'll see the same behavior all over the place, regardless of the status of the woman involved. It's silly, it's annoying, but that's just the way it is here. And it shows once again that in our eyes, you are the prize. So
Well, isn't that good? If in your eyes, we're the prize, and in our eyes, you're the prize? Sounds pretty good to me, because that's essentially what we're saying.
Am I making this video? Well, not only do I want to explain what's going on with the couples you're going to see here, but I also want to protect you from something. Because as great as it is for you in the Philippines, it can be equally disastrous for you back in the West. And a lot of you are putting yourselves at risk. I get emails almost every day from guys who say, I met this wonderful woman online and we've been dating for a while. I don't really know how you date online because...
That's true. How you can't really date online. I mean, I would probably consider that you're more like friends or something. Like, I don't know how you date online because you're not physically together.
In my world, going on a date means actually being together, physically. But oh well. And these guys want to bring the girl back to the West and marry them there. Or maybe they've been to the Philippines once or twice and they feel like they know the girl well enough to take her back home. And all I can say is no.
Hey, what are you saying? Come on.
Didn't your mom teach you not to run with scissors, not to stick a fork in a toaster, and not to bring a strange Filipina back to the West?
I have a lady who comes clean my house. She's Filipino, right? So she comes every few weeks. And she actually told me, like, she came directly from the Philippines, but her kids are born here or came over when they were very young. And they are so Americanized that they don't have any of the same values. Like, they're completely changed. Now, she herself is still pretty Filipina-ish. They do change a bit, obviously, coming to another country. Like, that's to be expected. Just like if you were to go to their country and live there, you would obviously change and adapt in certain ways. So, of course, there's going to be some change.
Well, if she didn't, she should have. Because if you expose a gorgeous, young, naive woman to Western culture without taking the necessary precautions, you're flirting with disaster. I have a video on this subject that explains why that's a bad idea. So if the thought even crosses your mind, please watch it before you make a potentially catastrophic mistake. The problem is, once you take a pretty Filipina back to your home country and release her into the population there, she's gonna find out real fast that she's the hot commodity now. Things have flipped.
Okay, I have multiple thoughts on this. So first of all, I know Filipinas who are here and they have trouble dating men here. Like they're on dating apps and stuff. They have trouble dating men because they complain that the men are not masculine enough. They're like, these men are like weak guys, because there's a lot of like weak, sort of like passive guys here. So maybe if she came across certain men, then yeah. And then on top of that, so what are you supposed to do? You then stay in the Philippines? Well, what's the difference? You're now in the Philippines with her, and so all the Filipino women are going to be coming after you. I've seen the videos of guys being around with this Filipinas and stuff, approaching them, or whatever country you're in, just because you're some white dude walking around. They're like, hey, are you sure you're married? I have this girl for you, or whatever. Like, it happens all the time. So what are we saying? That you trust the man not to cheat, or whatever, but yet the woman, if she's in North America, whatever, she's gonna cheat and go with somebody else? Like, both parties, if you're going to be in a relationship, particularly if you're going to be married, because that's ideally what's happening here, you need to trust each other. You don't get into a relationship with somebody who you can't trust and isn't your partner and you don't have a good connection with and has got your back, and you're not like building this life together, and she's just going to throw it away and start over with somebody else because what? You said she's not interested in looks, or at least not. It's not the most important thing to her, and apparently it's not about money and green card and that stuff. So then what would she be throwing it away for? A connection that she could develop with somebody else? That's the same thing like with the hot girl that we talked about earlier. So that's why you just have a thing. Like, look, people are going to approach you. I trust you to handle it. Like, I'm saying this to the woman, right? I trust you that you're going to handle it. You're not going to, like, let them, take you out to dinner or whatever's happening. And you just be like, you know what, no, thank you, I'm married, but I appreciate the compliment. And you're going to go on your way. And if they're persistent, you just kind of repeat sort of the same thing, and you get yourself out of the situation. Because ultimately, that's what I'm going to have to do in the Philippines. So it's no different. I'm with this person because I trust them and I respect them, and we're a good match. We work together well. Why would she just toss it away? She wouldn't. So I don't agree with this point.
She's gonna get hit on constantly. From the guy behind the counter at the 7-Eleven to the immigration attorney that she has to deal with. Every guy she runs across is gonna be chatting her up, making excuses to be around her, and making her offers that are hard to refuse.
Okay, if it's the guy behind the 7-Eleven, he's not going to be making her an offer that's hard to refuse. And on top of that, I'm confident in myself, just like a lot of these other men should be who are in this situation, that we know that we're good guys and that we're catches, just like she's a catch for us, right? And that she might think she's going to go and have a better relationship with some other person, but I know myself, right? I'm speaking for myself here. I'm a top-notch dude, so if she's going to be with me, like, it's going to be hard for her to find someone who's going to bring her more happiness, right? Especially, like, I'm talking about somebody I have a connection with. Now, this is somebody that she doesn't like any of my jokes, she doesn't like have any of the same interests, she doesn't like, going on vacations to the same place or whatever it is, then that's a different story, and I wouldn't even be married to that person. But the person I'm married to clearly likes me for me, and so they're not going to want to go with somebody else.
I know, because the same thing happened to me when I went to the UK. I went from being a woman who didn't even get looked at to a woman that men didn't stop looking at.
Yeah. But you were single, I'm assuming. I don't know if you're married or not. But if you're single, that's fine. And you can lap that all up. But once you're in a relationship or you're married, you gotta be like, I'm sorry, I'm taken. And you move on. And this is just part of life.
And if your Filipina is not mature enough to handle all the attention, she might end up seeing her situation with you in a less favorable light. If your relationship isn't properly grounded by already standing the test of time, at least for a couple years in the Philippines, then you're playing Russian roulette with your future and your finances. Now, does that mean you can never bring your Filipina home to the West? That a Filipino will just jump ship as soon as she sees a hotter prospect? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. but you want to be darn sure in every way it's possible to be darn sure that you're both in it for the same reasons.
Yeah.
Because if you take a gorgeous 24-year-old you barely know, that doesn't have any experience in the real world, and thrust her into a new life where every man she meets is telling her she's a beauty queen, you might just end up feeling the curse of the hot Filipina.
Okay, well, clearly, guys, as you heard through the video, I appreciate the sentiment of what she's saying, but if you pick a really good woman, this is not going to be an issue. So I'm not concerned, because if you pick someone who's a good match for you, you're good. Why was she going to go off and find somebody better? Unless she's there for the wrong reasons. And that's what you need to weed out before you even get to the point of getting married and or bringing her back. You need to make sure that this person is in for the right reason. Thank you, Filipina Fee, for making the video, but I disagree with you. And thank you to my subscribers, such as ZD Music Collection and Karaoke, for this comment and watching all of my YouTube videos. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. That's fucking terrible. Thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you again on the next one.